Hello fellas. Welcome back to Top 5 Choices. This is Haley from Top 5 Choices, and I hope you all are doing good. In today's video, I am going to do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best smartphone gimbals, 2022. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use it for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. The chief selling point of the GRANE M2 is undeniably its versatility. Most gimbals are designed to serve a specific purpose: smartphones, mirrorless cameras, or action cameras. If you're lucky, you might find a stabilizer that covers 2 of the 3, but compatibility with all 3 makes the GRANE M2 fairly unique. Still, there are caveats. It should go without saying that mirrorless cameras, phones, and action cams are all different shapes and sizes. Hell, there are plenty of different builds within each of those categories, let alone between them, and so you can't quite expect to dive between different devices in seconds, as you need to use a different mount for a mirrorless than you would for your phone. The GRANE M2 also can't support every mirrorless out there, so it's worth checking ZHIYUN's compatibility guidelines to see if your model is supported. For the most part, it's a question of size and weight. With a max supported weight of 720g, some of the bulkier mirrorless ranges won't work, and even some smaller models will struggle once you put a lens on, so this is really best suited to vloggers who are already using a lightweight camera anyway. The M2's versatility isn't just in the cameras it supports. It also offers 6 different types of stabilization to suit whatever shooting style you want, from the bog standard to some that are a little more niche. Pan following, PF, is one of the standards, panning the camera as you turn the gimbal from side to side, while locking tilt and roll. Following, F, pans and tilts, while you can manually control the roll with the thumbstick. Finally, lock, L, does what it sounds like, locks every mode to keep the camera static while giving you manual control and tilt and pan using the joystick. Those 3 modes are pretty standard, but ZHIYUN has also thrown in 3 more options. First up is Go mode, which locks roll while speeding up the pan and tilt controls so that you can follow fast-moving subjects more easily, though be warned, it takes practice to keep control of the camera while tracking that quickly. Traveling around with the iSteady-X is quite easy as it folds up and can easily fit into your pocket, and it is quite light to operate. Though during these hard times of the pandemic, I was not able to take the gimbal out much. However, I did take it out a few times to test, and it surely did help get some good stabilized shots. The HOHEM iSteady-X is built out of plastic, due to which it is extremely light to lug around. HOHEM has not skimmed out on the details. This one has intricate buttons, joystick, and all of the locking mechanisms to hold the gimbal straight when not in use. Controlling the gimbal is very easy with its power button, trigger button, and the joystick. The joystick is used to control the movement of the gimbal to get the perfect shot, whereas the 2 buttons have multiple assignments. The trigger button functions as a shutter button and a video recording button. The power button doubles as an orientation button. The LEDs on top of the joystick indicate the battery and standby status. Apart from these, there is also a zoom rocker on the side that comes handy in various shooting situations. The gimbal has a free size clamp, which can hold even large devices like the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. At first, I was afraid when putting such a large phone inside, but it did not fall or slip. The stabilization was not up to the mark of a professional gimbal. But for enthusiasts who are just starting out, it is a great tool. The gimbal was able to minimize a lot of jerkiness caused by unsteady hands. However, it did go for a ride when I was jumping around with it. Most of the videos captured with this came out good and usable for video montages, or even complete YouTube videos if you roll like that. It is a good tool for vloggers who travel a lot on foot and like recording themselves on their phone screen. Measuring 170 by 100 mm when fully extended, and weighing 469g with its tiny tripod attached, the BENRO 3XS Lite is a cute-looking and incredible flexible gimbal. Arriving in a gorgeously soft velvety drawstring bag, it's able to take almost any smartphone, however large, up to a maximum of 290g, which is a 60g more than the DJI Osmo Mobile 3 can hack. The payload is not a huge advantage unless you're adding a separate microphone, but size does matter. The 7.2-inch, 233G Huawei Mate X 5G we tried was so big it fouled the arm and rendered the gimbal useless. On its main handle are a few buttons: on, off, start/stop, record, focus, a trigger for zooming in and out or adjusting focus, it's your call, and it can be set in the app, and a 3.5mm input for a microphone so you don't have to connect one to your smartphone. There are also a couple of buttons to move the gimbal up, down, left and right, and one for recentering it. There's also a button that sends a phone tumbling through 180 degrees to swap between landscape and portrait mode, the latter now an accepted format, and sometimes even a favored. The BENRO 3XS Lite gives you a ton of shooting modes, though it's the basic operation that impresses most. For example, there's a universal follow mode that promises smooth video if you change the angle of view, direction and position, and a locked down mode for a horizontal panning movement. Pans and dips through 360 degrees all produce smooth video. Double tapping to recenter is a bit of a pain, and in practice the toggle button between portrait and landscape is useful for returning the gimbal to a default position. We found that the rear camera/front camera toggle button is way too easy to touch during filming. It's right under the index finger. At a glance, you'd be forgiven for thinking you were looking at an Osmo Mobile. The Q3's designers have clearly taken a lot of inspiration from DJI stabilizers, from the shade of gray to the feel of the plastic itself. Even the peel-off stickers are exactly like DJI's, though there are some differences between the Q3 and the OM3 and OM 4.41. The smooth Q3 has an integral phone clamp, not magnetic, and instead of a fold-out arm, it opts for a sliding track that's secured in place using a thumbscrew. You might think you can use any position along the track that you fancy, but it has to be fully extended due to the electrical contacts at its end. It's relatively compact when collapsed, though you'll have to buy the combo kit if you want a carry case to protect it. At 340G, the smooth Q3 is surprisingly lightweight, but build quality is good, and it feels sturdy. The built-in battery lasts for 7 hours of normal use, and up to 15 hours and is recharged via USB-C. Unlike some of the company's other gimbals, the smooth Q3 has a joystick that you can use to pan and tilt your phone's camera manually. Next to it are mode and record buttons and, on the opposite side, the power button and a trigger button that has various functions. As we've come to expect from most phone gimbals, there's a zoom slider on the side, but this, as ever, only controls digital zoom. It won't swap between multiple cameras if your phone has them. On the top side of the phone clamp is a fill light which can be rotated to face you, or face your subject if you're filming someone else. It's a touch-sensitive button. Hold it for 1.5s to switch on or off and tap to change the brightness between 3 levels. If past generation DJI OMs and Osmo Mobiles have looked like computer game props straight out of Ready Player One, the OM5 shakes things up, going in a much more organic direction. Its curves are soft, its shape's more natural than industrial, and one friend even joked it looks like an intimate aid. Folded up, the OM5 fits in a large pocket relatively easily, and poses no problem when sliding it into a backpack or a handbag. To unfold it, you simply rotate one portion, then flip another and you're done. The magnetic grip lives on your phone and adheres to the gimbal in a snap very securely. The base of the gimbal houses a standard 1/4-inch tripod thread. On the back of the gimbal is a joystick, a record and a rotate button. The rotate button can be pressed once to switch between front and rear cameras, and double pressed to flip from landscape to portrait orientation. To the left of the main button interface is a zoom slider, which engages digital zoom through the DJI Mimo app, and a power button above it, which switches between photo and video shooting with a single press. On the front of the gimbal is a trigger that can reset the gimbal position, and finally, there's a USB-C port for charging the gimbal. As for the selfie stick feature, this is the most manual, clunky part of the OM5 experience. To activate it, you simply yank the gimbal head away from the joystick portion and extend to your heart's desire, up to 21.5 centimeters. To really get the most from it, you should then pivot the head to angle you before you hit record, and as much as it can be a bit stiff to get in place, once set up, it all feels relatively secure. You could certainly argue that the OM4 is a better gimbal than the OM5. While it doesn't have the mega fancy extending arm, what it does do is operate as a more versatile gimbal when it isn't extended. What do we mean? The DJI OM5 is made to be used both when it's in selfie stick mode and traditional gimbal mode. It therefore needs to be able to rotate differently to a gimbal that is always held at hand level. For traditionalists who don't see themselves living their best selfie stick life, there's very little reason to go for the OM5 over the 4 if pure performance is what you're after.